Hey, welcome to Cloud Thrive, the podcast. You're with your favorite life coach, DaiJuan, here in DC. And before we get started, you know how we are going to play this out. We continue to build strong, rise with intention, and thrive with courage and confidence. And so today we are jumping into managing our capacity. I really wanted to dig a little bit deeper into this space because there's just so much we oftentimes forget to do and we forget to communicate, that I want to take this opportunity to really open up that conversation and open up the space just to hear what you all are thinking, what you're talking about, and how you think we can kind of move into this space. Given our new norm, given this new change, this transformation, I'm excited to see and hear how this is going to play out and what this will look like for us moving forward. So I want to jump right in. But before we do that, I have a couple of announcements. So now we're back, and I actually have two more things I want to cover. I want to share with you all. One, get your build bracelets. They are on the website. I'll make sure to put that information either in the description here for the podcast, or you guys can find it on the Instagram or the Facebook, or on the Facebook page, or on Twitter. So that's where you can find it. Get your bracelets. I share with you guys all the time. Each one is unique. There's only one of each size in each style. So go on, get it. Mid-January, we're going to be rolling out our 200 series. I'm super excited for you all to see that. Let me know what you need, how you need it, and we will get it done. I'm always looking for suggestions for new designs, new color themes. And so that's really what we're looking at. I am actually going to debut our Fresh Start 200 series bracelet in January. And that's I can actually do that soon because it's already been designed. I'm so excited to roll it out. And it's really to just give us a clean beginning in 2021. We just need this new start for us all. I am super excited to have you all be a part of that and be a part of that conversation. So with that was number one. Number two, the YouTube channel. I know I have listeners here on the podcast, but yes, I launched the YouTube channel, which is also Cloud Thrive. Don't forget to join me over there as well. Like, share, subscribe, comment, join the conversation. I want to start introducing new causes and connections that we're going to have here in the community, not just in DC, but DC and beyond. We are a community of thrivers, and we will continue to do so. With that, let's just jump right in. So this week's video was talking about managing our capacity. So, when we talk about managing our capacity, one of the things I oftentimes struggle with, but then realize is the biggest piece to why it's a struggle, is really just communicating, right? Our communication. How clear are we communicating? One, and then there's that second part, is how are we being received? Sometimes we have the best of intentions, and sometimes there are other elements at play where people aren't able to see, your true and authentic self being presented to communicate when we might need space, or when we're emotionally exhausted, or we just need the opportunity to be refilled, or we need to be fulfilled in other ways. So there were maybe 4 or 5 different sections that I talked about in the video, but I think they're all really, really valid, right? So we're talking about, when you've hit your limit and you really have exhausted 300, 400, 500%, we have to be able to share and communicate that. I think, in my own opinion, we oftentimes make the assumption that people should be able to identify that. And again, it's never ill-intended for them to just keep pushing you. But we have to be willing to put our foot down and say, enough is enough, or I need space. And I'm sharing this with you all, but I struggle with it myself. Just having the opportunity to say, hey, I've hit my limit. I really need to back off. Because that there's so much there left that you want to just continue to drive in. You want to continue to build up, but we have to be willing to pour back into ourselves when there's nothing left to pour out. And we have to be able to get to that space where it's a safe space. It's a safe conversation to have. And just understanding what that looks like, right? So another piece to that is we got to get out of this thing of not wanting to share our opinions when we're very passionate about what it is that we're sharing. So there's a difference between fact and feeling. And I want to make that very clear before I go any further with this. So again, there's a clear line between facts or feelings, but when there is a strong feeling and you are sharing your opinion, how do we do that? Sometimes you could hear a conversation, and I don't mean jumping in other people's business or conversations, but I mean, if you are a part of a dialogue, if you're a part of a conversation and you feel very strongly or passionate about what it is that you need to say and how that needs to be said, why sit in silence? Or for how long are you going to sit in silence, right? Like that's also a challenge. How long do you bite your tongue? How long do you not say anything? And I think in this space now, we have to be willing to share what our opinions are and make them a priority. Not the priority, but a priority. And I want to be intentional in sharing that because, we have challenge, we have problems, and we understand everyone else does too. And I think that's really where having grace comes into play, right? We have to be willing to share space at the table so that we all sometimes might need to take a step back and not be so far in it, just so that empathy is there across the board, across the table, right? So it's a real challenge for me, and as a coach, oftentimes I find myself not sharing my perspective because that's not what a coach does, right? So I find myself having to move between hats. I do have an area of expertise, a specialty. However, I also do general open life coaching, and it's awesome when I'm able to simply have that conversation with someone or ask them probing questions so that they can really dig deep and start pulling apart their own situations. The beauty in being a life coach is that that's 80% listening, actively listening, because when you have the opportunity to coach another person, it's not all the time what's coming out of their mouths, it's their body language, it's how they're receiving it, it's being intentional about noticing the facial expressions and how they're processing their own inner thoughts, and then providing the right type of questions so that it triggers a change, it triggers a spark so that they could really start to dive into a new space of themselves. Having conversations or just trying to build up enough courage and self-esteem to feel like your opinions are valid is that's the wildest thing in the world. That's really where your courage comes from, is being able to find your space and know that your space is there for you, no matter who is at the table, because your voice matters, right? So that's another part that's important. And we know, spaces are difficult. You could be in a number of intimidating spaces, but to that, never lose your voice. Never lose your voice. I think all of these really centered around just communicating, speaking up and communicating. And we know that we can. And it always goes back to, being seen, being heard, and just being received. Sometimes our presence speaks volumes. And so it's really difficult if you were to walk in a room of crowded people and everybody in the room notices you while you're not trying to make a scene or create a space where everybody is just focused on you solely. But it's helpful to embrace it. It's helpful to use that superpower for positive work, right? And just communicate clearly and empower and encourage others to communicate positively, right? I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and it was really weird because they voiced that, they felt comfortable talking to me. And, I don't really ever have an issue with people talking because I'll just sit and listen. But one of the cool things about it was they didn't say something, but their body reacted when they went to kind of glaze over what they were attempting to say. And it just took for me to just ask, I noticed your reaction. Is everything going to be okay? Or what space do you need to share? And from there, it was, the conversation got deep, and it was empowering to see them make this full transition of, there's a million things in my head, but I can't name a million things, to your body is now speaking for you because there's that challenge, there's that wall, that block, and asking what space you need so that you can be empowered, so that you can lift yourself, and feel supported on that journey. So, I always tell clients, like, your journey matters. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care where you are. I don't care what step you're on. Your journey matters. And that is like the whole, cycle of building strong, rising with intention, and thriving with courage and confidence, right? Because you can't get to the sky without having a strong foundation. You can't build a house without having a strong foundation. That house is not going to be built to weather the storms ahead of us, right? So that's really, really, really important. When we're talking about rising with intention, this part I oftentimes see when you're coming into your stride, like, what it is that you're doing, and you start seeing others on this highway that you're now on, and you begin to figure out whether or not they are a threat to you. But see, if you're intentional about what you're doing, then you're very clear, or you're becoming to be very clear about what's for you, because what you do is unique. No one can do what you do the way you do it. Nobody can do that. So, when we talk about those boundaries, it's really about being intentional. It's about understanding, this is where I am. This is what I need at this moment. And I've got to really get in a space of, how do I become more comfortable with sharing what I need, where I am, with those close to me. And you'll find yourself doing it whether you thought you could or not, because when people truly care about you and your journey and your space and your vision, when you say, I need space, or I need to share, or I am exhausted, or I need to refill myself, they'll understand. It doesn't take much, but they will understand. So I want to wrap up here. I want to share with you all that we will have a special guest coming up soon, and I am super excited. She will be on the podcast. I'll share more information about that. You will see it on the platforms, though, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Check me out there. Send emails if you want. If you'd love to be a guest, I'd love to have you. Send me an email. Send me an email, or send me a message on any of the platforms that we're on, and I will get it. I read every last one, and I appreciate you all for it. And remember to build strong, rise with intention, and thrive with courage and confidence. I love you guys. I'm out.